So in this lecture we are going to start with the chlorination part, one of the most important topics in the entire syllabus of water supply engineering, chlorination. Now why chlorine is used most widely for disinfection, we'll be studying that. Let the scale represent the pH level. Okay, consider that you are adding your chlorine when the pH of water is between 5 and 7. When you add chlorine when your pH level of water is between 5 to 7, these two reactions take place. Now these two reactions will always take place, but when the pH is between 5 to 7, the chlorine, when it reacts with water, it forms hypochlorous acid and hydrochloric acid. This hypochlorous acid again dissociates into hydrogen and hypochlorite ions. This reaction is reversible. Now this hypochlorite ions and hypochlorous acid both are always present in the water, but when the pH level is greater than 8, then this dissociation of hypochlorous acid is more into hypochlorite ions, and when pH level is less than 7, this formation of hypochlorous acid is again more. So when your pH is between 5 to 7, your hypochlorous acid is dominant, it is 80 to 100% in the water, and your hypochlorite ions for this pH is between 0 to 20%. When the pH level is between 8 to 10, again the same two reactions are going to take place, but this time your hypochlorous acid is 0 to 20% and your hypochlorite ions are dominant, 80 to 100%. So both these reactions take place, and depending on pH level, the dominant products are formed. So dominant product here is hypochlorous acid, here it is hypochlorite ions. A thing to notice here is that this hypochlorous acid is most destructive. It is 80 times destructive than hypochlorite ions, and hence this is required. Your hypochlorite ions may not be required that much, but hypochlorous acid is required. So what we have to do, we should obviously maintain the pH level of water between 5 to 7, right? Only if we maintain between this pH, then the formation of hypochlorous acid will be more, correct? So water is tried to maintain in this range. Now the various types of, or the various forms of ammonia that are present based on the pH level are, first is when the pH is between 8 to 10, ammonia is present in its natural form, and it when it reacts with the hypochlorous acid, it forms NH2Cl, that is monochloramine plus water, and it is dominant at a pH of greater than 7.5. So monochloramine is formed. When the pH level is reduced between 5 to 6.5 something, then monochloramine is further it reacts with the hypochlorous acid to form dichloramine plus water, and when it is further reduced, dichloramine plus hypochlorous acid forms nitrogen trichloramine plus water. So these reactions take place depending on various pH levels. All these three combined are called as combined chlorine. All these chloramines that are formed, nitrogen trichloramine, dichloramine and monochloramine, all these are called as combined chlorine, and they also have disinfecting properties, and they help in removing the odor inside the water. Okay, so all these three reactions take place, and depending on pH level, the dominant byproduct changes. Again, as how these two reactions both are taking place, like these two both are taking place, and depending on the pH level, which product has to be dominant, that is formed. Same way here, all these three reactions are going to take place, but depending on which pH your water is, that dominant product is going to form. Since we try to maintain our pH between 5 to 7, our dominant product which is going to be formed is dichloramine, correct? Now moving further, chlorine dosage. How much chlorine should we actually provide to water, and on basis of what? Let us understand this through a Venn diagram. You won't see this Venn diagram anywhere in any textbook, but it is quite easier to understand it through a Venn diagram, right? Let us say that this Venn diagram entire thing represents the total amount of chlorine dosage that we need to give to the water. Now this chlorine dosage would be divided into some parts. Out of this entire chlorine dosage, some part of that chlorine will be required to react with inorganic impurities, correct? Inorganic impurities like ferrous, manganese ions, etc., which will reduce chlorine to chlorides. These impurities will reduce your chlorine to chlorides. Then again, some part of the entire chlorine dosage would be used to reduce the ammonia to chloramines, the chloramines that we just saw, nitrogen, trichloramine, dichloramine, monochloramine, So some part of the chlorine would be used to form the chloramines. Some part of the chlorine would be used to react with the organic matter that is in the water. So in water we'll have all kinds of matter. First is inorganic matter, which is not like not living basically. Organic matter includes the living tissues or leaves and something like that. So chlorine is also required to react with that organic matter, forming chloroorganics. Now after from the entire dosage, this part is used, this part is used, this part is used. What is left is your free chlorine. So this is your free residual chlorine. This part of chlorine was not used, correct? Free chlorine will kill the germs almost immediately. The combined chlorine will have a long-term germicidal effect. So these chloramines, which are also called as combined chlorine, we just learned right now, right? It is called as combined chlorine. It is going to have an effect of long-term germicidal effect. This free residual chlorine, it will kill the germs immediately, but these chloramines are what are going to help for a long-term germicidal effect. For most waters, satisfactory disinfection occurs if 0.2 ppm of residual chlorine is left after 10 minutes of application. Now, this is the important part for chlorine dosage. You need to set your chlorine dosage according to the water such that this free chlorine is 0.2 ppm after 10 minutes. Okay, after 10 minutes you get this free chlorine as 0.2 ppm. So you need to set such a dosage. The total chlorine required in this process is called as chlorine demand. So the total entire chlorine is called as chlorine demand, and this is your Venn diagram. The chlorine demand in general should be increased during rainy seasons and during epidemics. As you know that during rainy season, the chances of infection in the water are more. Now, how do we apply the chlorine? There are various techniques by which we can apply the chlorine. Chlorine as liquid chlorine or chlorine gas. As a liquid chlorine, we get it in bottles. Chlorine gas, when pressurized in a cylinder at about 0.7 megapascal, it gets converted to liquid chlorine. When required to use, pressure is released and the liquid gets converted to gas. The chlorine gas causes steel to burn brightly at temperatures greater than 90 degrees Celsius. Hence, care has to be taken that the steel cylinders are properly ventilated. So, this chlorine liquid chlorine is stored in such a way that it is under pressurized conditions. When the pressure is released, the liquid gets converted to gas, and that gas is then used for our disinfection purpose. And again, the care is to be taken that the steel cylinders which are being used for storing and for passage of these gases, it has to be properly ventilated. Also, chlorine can cause irritation in the eyes and lungs, and in high doses of around 1000 ppm, it can cause death within 5 minutes of exposure. Hence, a lot of care has to be taken while working with chlorine gas. Commercially available chlorine are in the form of bleaching powder, which contains 30% chlorine. So as for 0.3 milligram chlorine, you have to provide 1 milligram bleaching powder. This is like uh, bleaching powder we all know, right? It is used for various purposes from cleaning to all other, and it is commercially available as well. So if this bleaching powder has 30% of chlorine in it, so if you need zero point 0.3 ppm, I'm sorry, if you need zero point 0.3 milligrams, 30% of X should give you 0.3 milligram. So that X comes out to be 1 milligram, right? So that way the 1 milligram of bleaching powder will give you 0.3 milligram of chlorine. This way the numerical maths is done for this. Another available form is high test hypochlorite HTH, which contains 70% chlorine. For 0.7 milligram chlorine, you need to provide 1 milligram of HTH. So again, the math is very same. It has 70% and bleaching powder has 30%. Second form of application is in the form of chlorine tablets. They are very direct to use, in the form of chlorine tablets. So chlorine tablets are used for small scale water purification in the swimming pools and all. You can just put the chlorine tablets and it will do the disinfection part, but they are costly. They are available in the market under the name Halazone. However, a new type of chlorine tablet is made which is 15 times better than the ordinary Halazone tablet and is cheaper as well. So that tablet probably might be used. The third is use of chlorine with ammonia. Chloramines, as we already learned, when the chlorine is reacted with the ammonia, it forms chloramines, and chloramines are much stable as compared to free chlorine, because we also learned that free chlorine is for short term effect and chloramines are for the long term effect, right? Free chlorine is evaporated after some time from the water, whereas chloramines stay for longer time. Chloramines are weaker than free chlorine in terms of its germicidal properties, but they do not impart odor or taste to the water. They are very useful where phenols are present in the water, since reaction of phenols with free chlorine causes bad taste, but with chloramines no bad taste is imparted. So this is one of the important properties, that chloramines do not impart bad taste, again do not impart odor or taste. And fourth part is use of chlorine dioxide gas. Chlorine dioxide is a very effective and powerful disinfectant, approximately 2.5 times that of free chlorine. It is produced by passing chlorine through sodium chloride. So this is probably sodium chloride and this is chlorine gas. It gives you NaCl salt and chlorine dioxide gas. Chlorine dioxide gas, right? Chlorine dioxide gas is expensive and very unstable and need to be used immediately after it is produced. For these reasons, it's not used widely. So this is for today's lecture. In the next lecture, again we'll be dealing with one of the very important topics, that is types of chlorination. And see you in the next lecture. Thank you.